Sandra represents the 20th Council District. It includes Flushing, Mitchell Linden, Murray Hill, not Murray Hill in Manhattan, Murray Hill, Queensboro Hill, and Fresh Meadows. She has this amazing story. After escaping the Cambodian genocide as a child, Sandra and her family immigrated to New York City when she was only 7 years old. She attended local New York City public school, PS 22, JH 189, Flushing High School, and Hunter. She even graduated with a JD from Columbia Law School. And she continued to live next door to her parents and become their primary caretaker. Just a good soul. Before joining the New York City Council, she worked as an attorney, defending survivors of domestic violence and advocating for them. She served in the government, state, federal. She worked for Congresswoman Grace Meng, and she helped with constituent and with immigrants because she herself is an immigrant. She's a lifelong community advocate. That's why we love her. That's why we're interviewing her, because she's just so awesome. Just a good soul with a big heart. She served as the executive director for Table PAC and to expand women and minority to run for office. And that's the way to do it. So when COVID-19 took over New York City, she organized mutual aid to bring hot meals to families. And she organized a mammogram truck to come to Flushing and connect the undeserved communities for vital health care in New York City. To these days, she continues to work for the district. And not only that, she also helped people like me in Manhattan and anything that any borough that needs help, because that's the way Sandra is. Hi, everybody. Welcome to ASEAN and Friends. And my guest today is my favorite friend, one of my favorite friends, Sandra City Council, New York City City Council. I mean, she's done a lot. She was the chief of staff for Congresswoman Grace Meng. So, Sandra, you go. What's going on? I heard that you're voting, right? What is the voting? Or are you done already?
Oh, so we are done with that. Yes, today the New York City Council voted on the budget, and we just finished the vote to City Hall, and I'm back in my district office.
So done with the budget, right?
Done with the budget. The budget is for this year, yes.
Whoa, that's really awesome. I mean, what do you want to see in New York City? You know, I know that. But tell me about you first. You know, I mean, I know about you, but my audience doesn't know about you. So tell me about you. Where are you from? Why you want to run for office, and whatever else you want to tell us.
Sure. So I was actually born in Cambodia, and my family and I escaped the genocide in Cambodia. I then we went to Taiwan, and I came to the United States when I was 7. And I, came to Flushing, which is a district where I represent since I was 10 years old. And since I came to Flushing at 10 years old, I never left. I went to all the public schools in Flushing. Then I went to Hunter College and then Columbia Law School. After that, I did a quick stint in a private law firm. And then I worked for this not-for-profit that worked with victims of domestic violence. I think that's the first time, I see firsthand how hard it is when you're, a person of color, especially a woman of color in this country, and when English is not your first language. I mean, I got that when I was growing up, and I was, always helping my parents out a little bit here, there, everywhere, in terms of just dealing with, like everyday life things, government. But I think working as, attorney for victims of domestic violence, especially representing them in court and listening to their struggles, I think I really understood that it's so hard, really, to navigate through the court system. I'll just use that as a court system when you are a woman of color and English is not your first language, and you think the system's there to help you. But it's really hard to access those resources in a very, it's already good, difficult, frankly, if English was your first language to deal with that, to handle that situation. But when it's not, it becomes, like just a lot more difficult. So after that, I did, like you said, work for different elected officials, Grace Meng being one. And I think, I did like a lot of constituent services, which just means, I'm in the front desk, so I'm picking up phone calls. So I hear a lot about what the community is, struggling with, what their concerns and what the challenges they have. So being a city council member, one of the things I talked about a lot is language access, because, I do represent a district that's 73% Asian, and also, large number of them are LEPs, a large number of them are seniors. So, when you think about all those challenges, language access is a challenge. And, I think, sure, we have come a long way since I was growing up. There was nothing, and now we have something called the language line, right? Which I think everyone always hear of. Like, you could, call 311, you'll be connected to something called language line. Or when the police doesn't know the language you're speaking, they're going to dial this number, and this number, and someone's, will be on that line. They're going to do that live translation. While I admit that's better than nothing, I don't think in some circumstances, especially like what I'm just talking about right now, like that's really effective for the community. It's effective for someone, who's facing very difficult and, challenging moments. And to have like a third party interpreter who, I don't know, this person, it could be in Arizona, it could be anywhere, not knowing that they're honestly being paid just to translate word for word what's going on. So they might not know the context of the situation, or, or what is going on, because they're just literally being paid like just to translate, just like straight translation, which in some circumstances really does miss, what's the context of what's going on. So, I mean, I think it's important to really acknowledge that, and to think like, I'll say for New York City, we still really have a long way to go with that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know you are a lifetime New Yorker, and I know you love New York, and this is why you work so hard for New York, right? I mean, but even then, in Flushing too. I mean, there's a lot of Asian, and a lot of not just Asian, but there's Korean. There's a lot of stuff. But still, I mean, if you could have it your way, what would you like New York to be? I mean, how? Well, I mean, you've done a lot of advocacy work, like more so than me. But what would you like? What would you like to see? I mean, the fact that you share an office with Andrew Yang, that's very kind of you. I mean, you didn't have to do it.
I mean, it was, during that time. So now we're talking about campaigning. We definitely, we cross-endorsed each other, and, we wanted to help each other. So it was nice that our staff, from both sides had the opportunity, to, talk to each other. And I was actually very impressed with his campaign, and that, I met so many people who helped him, and they weren't actually from here. He just generates such an energy.
Yeah.
And momentum that people from, frankly, like just all different parts of the country.
I know, right? I mean, people coming from like California, Texas, everywhere. They just came.
So I thought that was impressive. So I was like, oh wow. So it was nice to meet people from all over, the country and all over New York City, who wanted to, be a part of his campaign. And because we share that office, and because we helped each other, it was also nice to be, they were helping me too. So I was really appreciative of that.
Yeah, but most people are not as generous as you. So, so that was really nice. That, that's one thing that I feel sad about the Asian. I feel like there's a split, like you don't want to help this, you don't want to help that. I think people need to stay united and work together, and I think that's the most difficult thing in New York. Even in the Asian, I think in the Asian culture, in my opinion, what's going on about you in a Cambodian culture? How is that?
Well, since you mentioned this, so when I say I was born in Cambodia, right? I am Chinese by descent, because my family is Chinese, and Cambodia at that time was a really good place for Chinese immigrants to settle there and do business there. But you did mention something in that, since I could talk about it freely now. During the campaign, there was a lot of conversation about like, who am I, right? Am I really Chinese? And I think that part was really like, to me, like, well, like
Very
hurtful.
racist.
Yeah, and very,
Very racist in your own community.
from my own community, people were questioning whether or not I'm Chinese. I was like, well, immigrant, what's called immigrant, right? So like,
Right.
I'm an immigrant here in the United States, and my descendants were immigrants in Cambodia. Does that negate the fact I'm still Chinese here? No, doesn't negate the fact that they were Chinese living in the country,
Right.
right? So the questioning of when I was Chinese was something by my own community here was something that was just a little hurtful and confusing to me. I was like, wait a minute, Chinese, we are everywhere, frankly. I mean, not, we.
Well, yeah, same thing like me. I'm Chinese, but I was born in Jakarta, Indonesia. So they again look at you funny. But I think I have this podcast to avoid that, to really talk about it, to say please don't do that. It's like don't do that. They I think even when Andrew was running, there was a lot of Asian that do not want him to run, and I thought, wow, that's really sad, because I would be really proud to have somebody running and representing us, and it's sad. So when are you? It's coming soon, right?
Oh,
You
so
wait.
yeah, so it's a four, like it's well, so normally city council terms are 4 years, but because there's a redistrict this year, so
Right.
my district, this year doesn't look exactly the same as 2 years ago when I won. So that's why all city council members have an election this year. I don't have a primary, so primary just passed, but I don't have a primary, but I do have a general election coming up in November.
Yeah, so everybody that wants to help Sandra, please go out there and help Sandra, in Flushing. And you must vote, right? That we, as immigrants, we fought so hard. So you must vote. I mean, no excuse. You're 18, register to vote, and go out there and vote.
Actually, I talk about this part. I talk about a lot because I think it's so important for Asian Americans to vote. And I say it doesn't matter who you vote for. And I think there's some
As
sort
long
of
as you vote, right?
I think there's some sort of misconception. Like, people think elected officials know who voted for you. I was like, we would never know who voted. Like, I would never know who voted for me. No one would ever know that. But they would know if you vote, right? They definitely know if you vote. They don't know who you voted for. That's really a law in the United States. And, I think some people think that. I was like, that's totally not true. The law is,
That's like your
because
constitutional right.
elected officials would know, like, you didn't vote for them. You voted other person. They're going to be, I was like, that's totally not true. We just know if a person came out to vote. We do not know who voted for you, which just matters, frankly, just in terms of, like, every elected officials can see what constituency came out and vote for them. So when they make decisions regarding funding, regarding policy issues, right, they're going to say, well, which is the groups that, that comes out to vote, right? And this is just being like a really practical and just being real realistic about where things are at.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes our community doesn't quite see it like that. And the second thing about that I want to address is also the age, right? I feel like the older generation, the seniors, definitely do a much better job in voting. But people like our generation, Esther, like, I talk to my friends, I was like, oh, today's election day or whatever, tomorrow day. They're like, okay. I was like, you're gonna vote? They're like, no. They're like, oh, my vote really would make a difference. And this is something else I also wanted, really talk about. I was like, yes, everyone knows about the presidential race or the senator race. They always love to go out and vote for that. But in some ways, those votes doesn't really matter as much as the local elections, because local elections are really decided by very small margin, much smaller margins than, for example, like a presidential race or a governor's race. So speaking of that, I actually introduced, it's a state bill, but I introduced a resolution in city council to coincide city races with either even year elections or like governor's races, just to drive the turnout a little bit more. Because, like primary just happened this past week and the turnout is pretty low. Now I understand maybe people think, what city council? Like, why should I go and vote? Well, does it really matter? So I think, voting is actually very important and
Yeah,
something
it
like
does matter.
you
You put
need to
people in
like,
office that's responsible for your district, right?
yeah, but I think people don't like think that like that. They think president's important, the governor is important. But when we talk about local elections, they're like, eh.
Yeah, but the local election too. I mean, and people don't know this, but local election has a lot to do with the school, like your budget, for example. You have,
Right, right.
you
And that's
know,
the thing. So yeah, now it's like it's also like, okay, you have a tree stump issue. You should call your local, you should call your city
yeah,
council member. You have a pothole, you should call your council member. Someone's not picking up your garbage. It's your garbage pickup day. You should call your council member.
yeah. You have issue with the school, call the school. But I think for myself, I want people to vote to get people out of office, not you. You, I love. I don't live in your district, but you, I love. I think we should keep people that's in office, and if we don't like someone, that's what I always try to educate people. Well, this is an opportunity to get them out of office. You know?
And it's yeah, I mean it's like if you don't like you said, if you don't like a job someone's doing, I mean, look, social media is great. You can complain all you want on social media, which is fine, but at the end of the day, social media is social media. It's not yes, I was like,
Not a nitty gritty.
it really doesn't add to the conversation we're having now. A vote is your power. Everyone who registers to vote, who has the ability to do so, that is like, that vote is your power, really. And I think people just don't use it as much as they can.
Yeah, and we have this AAPI reading hour that you are supposed to be at the gas, but we're gonna drag you. We're gonna call your scheduler to make sure that you showed up, because that's for us. We're doing the AAPI reading to just get people to see like elected officials that look like us, and just to avoid the violence. I mean, I have to say, since the pandemic, I don't think we've recovered from the pandemic. I just feel like the shoplifting, this crime, the Asian being hit left and right. I think it's a very sad. So this is an opportunity, I think, for all of us to just really get out and vote, and also volunteer. If they want to volunteer for you, where do they go?
Sure. So you know what? This is happening in my official office. So I don't think I would feel bad be having that conversation about the campaigning. So I'll save that for you to have a conversation with you about that next time in a different space.
But they can volunteer for you for your district.
Sure, they could definitely volunteer.
They can be like a constituent liaison, right?
My official office.
Yeah.
People who want to do that, they could Google me, Sandra Ong, City Councilman Sandra Ong. So they could definitely reach out to me in that way if they want to, volunteer in my official office.
Because I know for myself, I volunteer for my assembly member Rebecca Seawright to do chair yoga. So people that are gifted and talent, they can go to you and volunteer for, yoga, whatever, right? They can help constituent service for your district, correct?
Well, I mean, what if it's like, if it's possible, since we're on this podcast, I hope young people are listening, I would love to get some college volunteers for
There you
the
go.
semester.
So college volunteers.
I would love
I'm
to
going to
get
actually connect you. I'm going to connect you to one of my team, because you should go to handshake, and then boom, it goes to every colleges.
Yes, because you know what, I do need some. I mean, I do need some college volunteers during the fall. Just to, like you said, like to talk to constituents coming in when they have problems, and also pick up the phone calls. And I think that's also a really good way to know what's going on in the community. And I think it's really a good skill set to have college students to learn that, like to really learn how to like talk to people and to understand their issues and
Even
challenges.
to answer the phone, right? Just
Absolutely.
the mentoring part. And I think it's very important, instead of like sitting down doing your social media and doing your TikTok. So I think it's really important for college, even high school. Some of the high school kids are very wise that they should go and volunteer. It's also giving back. They can just answer phone call, do the constituent liaison, and they get like a lot of relationship out of you and everything else. So I'm going to connect your team to do handshake, and then it goes everywhere. And I'm going to connect you.
It's a different app. What's a handshake?
It's called Handshake. I'm going to connect you with the president of CUNY, and who does student president. I'm going to connect you with him, and I'm going to say, you know what you should do? Give me the volunteer thing. And
Oh, sure. The description. Yeah. The internship is. I mean, actually, make it sound, but it's an internship. So,
yeah, internship. The
yeah,
internship.
okay, sure.
And I'm going to send it to this president for the students for CUNY and CUNY and SUNY. Yeah, and then they can just give it out to everybody. You never know. But I think
Oh, no, absolutely. And I have a CUNY really close to me. I have Queens College right by me. So it's definitely something I think it's doable for, college students if they want to do this.
yeah,
I do think I think it's good just for, students to know like what is going on, and I think the best way someone to know what is going on in the community is really just to, like you said, volunteer for, elected office.
yeah, for the internship. So that's what I'm going to do. As a matter of fact, I'm going to just, give them an option. Hey, volunteer with me, and then go do intern with Council Member Sandra. That's what
No,
I'll
it
do.
sounds good. It sounds
I'll
good.
just promote you at the same time because I think it's really, I think, you know, people get lazy and people get complacent. People don't know where to go. But I think it's really important to, like, as little, like for me, like I tell all my neighbors, you want to be my reading buddy? You're reading buddy to a 3-year-old, but come on, be a reading buddy. Even half an hour, something is always better than nothing. You always get it when you give back, right? So that's the whole idea. You're running for office. It's not just a job. You've done this. I mean, you work really your behind off, to really make it work. So, Sandra, you're the best. Thank you for
Thank
showing
you.
up. Thank you for interviewing. But I'm gonna call your office and then
Yeah, I'm gonna email you the internship description.
yeah, I would love that. All
Yeah,
right, bye,
that'd be
honey.
great. Thank you, Esther.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.